And joining us right now here on Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports, is Vincent Bonsignore from The Athletic. Of course, Vincent writes about the Vegas Raiders. Vincent, thanks for the time. It's much appreciated as always, my friend.
You got it. And it's actually the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I used to work with The Athletic.
Oh, it's the
Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Oh, okay, the Las Vegas Review-Journal. My bad, Vincent. My bad.
No worries, man. You know what? Life moves fast, man.
That's it.
I'm trying to keep up.
All right, so let's start with your take on the Raiders putting all their chips on the table for Jimmy G and his injured foot.
Yeah, and obviously they moved on from Derek Carr, and as I wrote many times and talked about many times, the decision to move on from Derek Carr wasn't really predicated on having an exact replacement in mind for him or set replacement in mind for him when they made that decision. It was independent of who the replacement was going to be. You heard Tom Brady. They dabbled in the Aaron Rodgers. They thought about maybe trading up in the draft. There were a lot of different balls that they were kind of juggling to try to figure out whether it was going to be a long-term or short-term replacement plan for Derek Carr, and ultimately they decided that Jimmy G, with his past history with Josh McDaniels, would be a good fit on a short-term basis. And so, that's the direction that they took. Lo and behold, as we've come to find out, at the time of the signing for that contract, he wasn't ready to take his physical, or he wasn't ready to pass one, that's for sure. And he didn't. And they realized, and they came to the conclusion that the foot injury that he suffered last year in December needed some cleanup surgery. I think all the doctors that were involved took a look at things, and the Raiders had a comfort level that everything was going to work out. I think Jimmy G feels the same way, but as a protection, because he literally couldn't pass the physical at the time of signing, the Raiders added some language to the contract that says, look, we think you're going to pass the physical, but if it comes to it where you can't, we need to have some protection on this. And so we're all going to find out together whether or not Jimmy G ultimately passes this physical. And if he doesn't, the Raiders can walk away from the contract scot-free and go in another direction. I don't think they expect that or want that, but that is, until further notice, something that's on the table.
How serious were they, or did they inquire about Aaron Rodgers? Because that just made too much sense to me. They needed a quarterback. You had the Devontae Adams connection. I think the money was there, if I remember correctly, from things I've read. How serious did they get in on the Aaron Rodgers talk?
I would say it was lukewarm, and there were probably a number of reasons for that. Number one, whatever assets it was going to take to acquire him, that's one leg of that journey. But the other part, and that gets tied into, okay, but how long is he going to be here? Is this going to be a 1-year deal or 2-year deal? And I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is really in any mindset to give that kind of an answer. And so I don't think the Raiders were real interested in paying some assets for what could have been just a 1-year type rental. And then on top of that, it would have still cost a lot of money. There's no way that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to collect all the money that he is owed. So that came into play in terms of, are these resources, whether it's the capital to pay him, the draft capital to go get him, does that fit with the timeline right now? And I don't think there's really, if you're being realistic, and I think the Raiders are trying to be realistic, I don't think they're any quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl this year. I think they want to be competitive. I think they want to, get pointed in the right direction. But I don't think that they feel like they got to sell out to go get a quarterback, or didn't feel like they had to sell out to go get a quarterback for 1 year and sacrifice whatever they were going to sacrifice in that pursuit.
Vincent Bonsignore is with us here from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, also the host of the Raiders Huddle, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports on this Friday. Vincent, Josh McDaniels said he has no anxiety regarding Jimmy G. Is there anxiety in that locker room?
I talk to a lot of people. I'm not getting that sense right now. Now, as I said earlier, we're going to all kind of find out together whether that optimism is warranted or not.
Right.
Because at some point, Jimmy G is going to have to take a physical and pass it. And, we're, I'm sure, weeks away from that. Training camp starts, at the end of July? So about 8 weeks away from, maybe a little bit less from when training camp is here, and when he literally does have to end up taking a physical. But everyone that I've talked to, and I feel like I talked to enough people, not just, on one floor of the building, but also players and people that kind of have a good inkling of what's going on. And there really isn't a whole lot of concern right now, at least the type that anybody is expressing or, kind of scratching their head about like who the heck's going to be the quarterback here. I think there literally is a comfort level that it's all going to work out. But I always preface that by saying it is Jimmy Garoppolo. And this isn't an exact science. And we're talking about the human body, and we're talking about a player who's been hurt multiple times. So, I know Josh McDaniels, and I don't think Josh is going to say that unless he's getting good, solid information from the people that should know these types of things. And we're talking about doctors and medical staff. So he obviously has a level of comfort based on the information that he's getting from the medical staff. But we have to preface this by saying it isn't an exact science. And at some point, he's going to have to take that physical, and we're all going to find out whether or not he passed it or not.
I know they just held OTAs, and I know they're in shorts and not really pads. Anybody flash out there, though? Anybody raise an eyebrow for Vincent Bonsignore?
Well, Max Crosby always does. I don't care if it's in the middle of October,
sure.
Or in late May, early June. This guy brings it, and it's really impressive to see how he continues to stack it day after day, season after season, that there's things that still push him, and there's goals and objectives that he still has individually and obviously as team-wise. So he's out there flying around, no doubt about it. I feel like Aidan O'Connell, he's gotten an opportunity to throw a lot here in OTAs. We're going to get a really extensive look at him next week in minicamp. I'm just saying, eyeballing it after a couple of practices. The guy can sling it. He's got an arm. He throws with touch. There's an accuracy to him. He looks like he's thinned out a little bit since what I saw of him on tape over at Purdue. So he's putting the body together as well. I feel like there's a starting point there for Aidan O'Connell. Obviously he's going to have to put it together. That's on him, and that's on the coaching staff to see, how high he can take it. But there seems to be some pieces of that puzzle, the necessary pieces of a puzzle, to ultimately construct a pretty decent quarterback. But again, that's going to be on him. Early impressions, though, young Aidan O'Connell can throw the heck out of the football.
Vincent Bonsignore is with us on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Vincent, I saw your tweets yesterday about Chandler Jones. He looks pretty thin to me. He's down to 255. Do you anticipate him playing lighter this season? Is that what he's saying he's going to do?
I think that's the plan, but to me, when he walked out there yesterday, I had to do a double take. And it looked like he was a 3-and-D small forward, that right. Could go help the Miami Heat. Who knows? Maybe he could have helped the Miami Heat last night, but I can't see that somebody can play that position at that weight, because there's some big, large human beings over there at offensive tackle that whose eyes would probably light up having to go with somebody that's that light. So yeah, I think how he kind of explained it to us is he's coming off an injury last year himself, and I just don't think that he's gotten into the weight room the way he normally does, and because of that, he's kind of walking around feeling pretty good about how quick he feels and how light he feels, which I'm sure there's something to be said about that. He just turned 33. I'm sure he understands at this stage of his career that speed is a factor. And, should I drop some weight in order to maintain some speed or pick up some speed that maybe I lost because of age? But there's a fine line there, because It's one thing to be fast. It's another thing if you're going to get pushed around. And he does other things aside from rush the passer, and that set the edge and, and be strong in the run game and stout in the run game. Just eyeballing it, I can't imagine that he's going to be able to play at that weight, but he has a lot of time to find that sweet spot for him where he's maintaining some speed, but not losing the necessary power as well.
I know the quarterback situation, and especially with the news about Jimmy G's foot, probably gets most of the attention and concern from those with an eye on the Raiders, but Should we be more concerned with what's going on that side of the ball on the defense?
That's always the big concern with the Raiders. And I've been covering this team since the last month of 2019, and it just never seems to get better. And they've missed out on a lot of draft picks. Obviously, Damon Arnett was supposed to be going into year 4 as the starting quarterback. We all know how that played out. Trayvon Mullen's no longer with the team. Cleve Farrell was a waste of a pick. Jonathan Abram never lived up to expectations. Corey Littleton wasn't the free agent linebacker that they thought I could go. How long do we have? We could go on and on with that. But the bottom line is It's created a defense that has a lot of holes, and they're not going to be able to magically take care of that during free agency. I know the fans were a little bit frustrated over the lack of activity. Well, they had a lot of holes that they had to fill, and a finite amount of money that they could spend, and so they kind of went with the spread it out and bring in as many as they could, and really focus on the draft. And they did, obviously go heavy on defense. Can Byron Young be a player that could get on the field early? Is Tyree Wilson going to be who everyone expects him to be? Jacorian Bennett, the cornerback from Maryland, Chris Smith, the safety from Georgia. Are these guys going to be able to get on the field? And some of the free agents that they brought in. So I say this every year. They can only go one way, but every time I say that, it feels like they still find ways to go the other way, the wrong direction. So that's definitely a point of focus. I don't think it's going to get fixed overnight or in one off season. That's a defense that's under construction and will be for some time. But as long as they can start hitting on some of these draft picks and some of the guys that we just mentioned, if they are, and you got to throw in Nate Hobbs. Is he back from the injury? Divine Diablo, all the weight that Chandler lost, it seems to have gone in a good way. To Divine Diablo, he sort of changed his body. Matthew Butler and Neil Farrell, the two defensive tackles they drafted last year. Trayvon Merrick, the young safety, is he going to bounce back from what was kind of a step back season for him? There's players there, and there's talent there. Now they just have to have guys really and truly step up, and it's a rinse and repeat situation with the Raiders. But you figure at some point they're going to get it turned around. And who knows? Maybe this is the year.
Vincent, great stuff, man. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Look forward to speaking with you soon about this team, and enjoy your weekend.
All right, you guys have a good one. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. There goes Vincent Bonsignore. You're on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Of course, Vincent works at the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He also hosts Raiders Huddle.
Which we knew. We obviously knew.
I have been gone for 2+ weeks, so